So, mostly ladies and a few male allies, gentlemen, very, very warm welcome to our celebration of International Women's Day 2021. It's the day to celebrate, and I'm very excited to welcome you all here into our container. So, some of you have just come from the previous event, which was about growing a business and inspirational leaders. And our event here is going to be about women in investment. We have three keywords: invest, empower, and inspire. So it's all about that part of our business. And for those of you who don't know, this is a joint venture from 4 different organizations. And now I'm going to see if I can say them right. It's the Norwegian-British Chamber of Commerce, our main host for this event. Then it's also Danish-UK Association, and it's Finnish-British Chamber of Commerce and British Chamber of Commerce in Denmark. So that's all of the organizations. And I also, at this early stage, would like to thank, we have 3 sponsors who generously chimed in to make this possible for us and support us. And that is Vestre, and it's Ruby Cup, and it is Goodwill. And if you're curious about these organizations, you can go to the NBCC, Norwegian-British Chamber of Commerce website, and you can read more about them. We have a very exciting lineup today. I'll tell you a little bit about myself before we get started, and the reason I'm asked to be your humble host. And that is because in my day job, I'm a communication trainer. So I help my clients increase their impact through the screen and get their confidence, get their presentations right, get the remote working and their meetings right. And sometimes I do company present celebrations. So today is a celebration, so that's a good thing. And as I was preparing, I was helped by Stine, who's also here. And she sent me an article from Statistisk Sentralbyrå. That's the statistics of Norway. And this article is from February 17th, 2021, right now. And the average income in Norway, there's a gap from 575,400 to 402,500, 172,900 less for women, just in average this year. And if you're thinking in UK pounds, that's going to be 14,557. So there's things for us to do. So with that, I'm going to lead into our very exciting speakers. We're going to listen to Annett Aabø. She's the president of the Norwegian-British Chamber of Commerce. We're going to listen to Helena Whitmore. She's the head of private banking in the UK of SEB, Skandinaviska Enskilda Banken. And then we have Nina Ahlstrand, head of sustainable finance, DNB markets. That's the Norske Bank. They will all tell you more, of course, about who they are. And then finally, we have Camilla Andersson, who is the chairwoman of Feddie Distillery, and the president and co-founder of WIN, which is Women Investor Network of Norway. And with that, I'm going to wish a very warm welcome to Annett. Take it away.
Thank you, Kim. And I'm delighted to have the opportunity to speak at this webinar and to be in the company of so many inspiring women. I thought I'd start with a bit of background information about myself. I'm born in Norway and I didn't really know what I wanted to study, so I thought business would be a good idea because that would give me plenty of options later on. And I also thought I wanted some perspective and learn a new culture, so I went to the US to study. I specialized in finance because it was rather quantitative. This was something I liked at the time. And because I loved university life, I stayed on to do an MBA at Boston University. So after all those years in the US, I went back to Norway and I started working as a financial analyst and subsequently partner in an equity broker. After a few years doing that, I then decided to move to London with my husband and young son at the time. And that was to further develop my career in finance. And I have now lived in London for 21 years. There are many things that empowers me, but today I'm going to focus on 3 things. And they are the following. 1, I like to work towards measurable results. 2, I always try. And 3, the whole picture. I'll explain all of those in more detail. Firstly, I like personally to work towards visible results. I just find it easy to be motivated when I can finish tasks completely and that it is measurable. For example, in the NBCC, we are a membership organization, networking organization. The last year has been challenging with the COVID situation, and we've had to adapt. And specifically, I think sort of online, our presence has improved, and we had to do something about that. I think one way we can measure how we succeed is to look at how many members we have and how that changes over time. And I'm very pleased to say that the last year we had a very good membership retention rate and also managed to get many new members. So I think that tells us that we're doing something right. The second point I wanted to mention that motivates me is a thing to always try. So what I mean by that, I am personally terrified of losing out on an opportunity and to have this feeling of what if, feeling of regret. So because I'm so scared of that, that pushes me to try new things, to take on a challenge. And sometimes I'm way beyond my comfort zone and sometimes absolutely terrified. One example of this would be when I, 21 years ago, decided to go to London and try out the competitive financial world in London at the same time as raising a young family. In terms of being a woman in finance, I have to admit that when I worked in finance, first in Oslo, then later in London, I worked for Citigroup. I didn't really think much about the fact that I was a woman. I obviously knew I was, and I was very often the only woman amongst many men. I just thought about my job. I really loved working in finance. I tried to focus on the task at hand, do my best and work hard, and at the same time being professional and nice. I think possibly one thing that has made me very focused on the task at hand is my experience from rhythmic gymnastics. When I was young, I was on the national team in rhythmic gymnastics. And this gave me very good experience in focusing on performing when it was important. And it also taught me that nothing beats hard work. There is one last important thing I would like to mention in terms of me being the best I can at work. I've always been very conscious about my life as a whole. And that means in order for me to perform my best, I need to be happy in my private life. And my private life, that is my family, my friends, my interests. And for me to be happy, and my definition of success is that all those things work for me. And that's when I perform the best. And maybe that is why I chose to take several years of my professional career to stay at home and look after my two boys. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Annett. Wonderful. You gave us like a little opening into your universe. I'm sure there's more for us to discover from your journey. Thank you very, very much. I love that you have this background from the rhythmic gymnastics. I want to hear more about that. But anyway, thank you. And with this, Annett, you're welcome to put yourself on mute, and we're going to hear our next speaker, and that's Helena Whitmore. Give it away, Helena.
Thank you very much, and delighted to be here today with all of us. So I am the head of the private banking team for SEB, one of the largest Swedish banks, but I'm not a traditional banker as such. My expertise in my own area is tax and wealth planning. I've been in London for 32 years now, but I was born in Sweden and grew up there. I also don't come from a family where everyone was in financial services. Some people think you have to be born a banker to work in banking. My dad's first job when he left his studies was to join the Merchant Navy, and he traveled the world as a radio operator. And by the time he came back to start his family, he was on his not a computer, on his amateur radio, talking to friends and connections that he'd made around the world using his amateur radio, and sometimes in Morse code back in the 70s, a long time before email. And that really inspired my sort of interest in communication and wanting to learn English. So I started doing that a long time before we even did at primary school. And my goal was to move to England. Career hadn't worked out, but I wanted to be here. Tax wasn't a career that I'd really dreamed of joining. It's not something that had occurred to me, but when the opportunity came up, I was really pleased that I took it. It's a great job to work in. Lots of interesting questions to solve. It's something that everyone pays. You've always got something to talk about, really useful in networking. I always felt I could do a good job in work by being thorough and being professional and being nice, but I didn't feel particularly brave really to stand up and hold my own in that kind of environment where there were very few women. So actually, after my first career goal, I took up karate training and kept training, so I got a black belt, and that really boosted my confidence. And it might be something that seems a bit frightening for people. Why would you want to do that? But it's actually something you could do at every age and every ability. And you don't have to have, you know, the physique that you'd expect to do it. It's very rewarding, and it's something that gives you a real boost and focus as well. I found that really helpful. Before joining SEB, I wasn't sure if financial services would be a good industry to work in at all, but it is. I think there are some bad firms out there. Sometimes hear people talk about certain firms they've joined where it wasn't a very inclusive environment, not very welcoming to women, but I don't think that's indicative of the industry as a whole, certainly not the institutions that we represent. We really try. My area of private banking is a people business. We really get to know our clients really well. And that's really great because we can help them solve problems. My motivation really is not looking at money for the sake of money, but to help people. I feel motivated by helping people and by collaborating. So if we can work together to solve a problem, that's what I really like. Put lots of pieces together and then work out what to do with them. So for example, in connection with a move abroad, there's always more than one angle. Our clients are Nordic nationals, so they're always going to be cross-border questions for them if they're in the UK because they've come from Sweden or Norway or Finland or Denmark, and then the family members are spread out. So when a family wants to do something, perhaps it's time to shift assets to the next generation. What's good for one might be really bad for the other. The best way to do it to your daughter in the UK might be the worst way to do it for your other daughter or son in Switzerland. So finding solutions and flagging issues. I think working together as a diverse team is the most important. The best client meetings I've had have been when there are men and women working together, because we can really delve into those sort of questions and pick it up depending on where the conversation's going. I think I've always worked in male-dominated industries, and that's been fine for me. I've not found it a problem, but it would have been so much nicer if we had more women around. And I think it's quite embarrassing when you get invited to events and seminars and there aren't any women on the speaking lineup. It's just not very nice. I think the world is pushing us in that direction. Before doing this talk, I reached out to some of my female colleagues to see what are the advantages of being a woman in this field. And I got lots of really good answers. And of course, one is probably for women, a lot of us find it easier to show empathy and easier to sort of bring up very personal questions that might otherwise be a little bit embarrassing. But if we don't understand that a family has a problem child, for example, or there might be a divorce or a relationship problem coming up, then we can't really help them. So it's easier for us to do that. We can provide a different perspective to what our male colleagues are doing. Women make great leaders, and they also provide a better working environment. So if you have a male-only culture, that's probably not going to be as inclusive and open. This question of sustainability is something that is on top of all agendas, and that's certainly something that's on top of ours. And a lot of seminars I get invited to now are all to do with that. And of course, gender equality is one of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. We mustn't forget about that. People talk about the environment, but actually this is another goal. And it's one of those goals that actually the financial services industry can influence. We can't, with our products and services, partly we can do it for our own staff and the women who work within our organizations, but also for our customers and clients by the products and services that we offer. And it was interesting to hear in the previous session that they felt there should be more of that. Why would you go to a bank if there isn't going to be a woman there to listen to you and provide input? So at SEB, this is a major focus area for us this spring. And actually there is some more movie clips out on our website today. So this isn't a general plug for SEB, but just to say there's some interesting stuff out there. So you can go on our website at seb.se/gender-equality, and there are some really good films there, including one which is called Why Women Don't Own.
Thank you.
And the statistics just aren't great.
Fantastic, Helena.
Statistics just aren't great.
No, they're not. They're not. There's so much more to be done. Thank you so much. You're very welcome to, while we listen to the other speakers, if you would like to copy the link and put it in the chat box. There might be some of us who are like, oh my God, I want to look at it now. So thank you very, very much.
Yeah, I'll do that. Thank you.
And thank you for sharing your journey and the martial arts and the Radio Morse taking you to England and all of that. It's beautiful. And I could go on, and we're going to transition over. And I'm glad you mentioned the sustainability there, because we're going to echo that in our next speaker. So thank you so much, Helena. And it is now time for us, thank you, to listen to Nina. Welcome, Nina.
Hi. Sorry, a bit of a technical issue with the sound. For some reason, there is a phone ringing here, which I'm trying to turn off, but not managing to. There's no event these days without some technical issues.
It's all part
of now. Sorry about that.
No, it's part of, it's happening to all of us. We're in the same situation. Take your time to land. Yeah.
Wonderful. Hi, everyone. Nina Ahlstrand. I work in sustainable finance in DNB. Norwegian bank, but I'm based in Stockholm in Sweden. I've been with the DNB for almost 9 years, but I started my career in finance with a summer internship back in 2008 in London. I hadn't thought too much about working in finance prior to that, but I thought it could be interesting to try, and it certainly was. And it did go fairly well. I received an offer to come back for full-time a year later, once I had finished my studies. But turned out there was one little hiccup in that process, and that turned out to be that the bank that had hired me was actually Lehman Brothers. And you might remember in 2008, they did not survive into 2009. So that was a bit of a detour for me. As you can see, I still ended up in finance. I did spend a few years in London, but then I landed in DNB. But I would say that it wasn't really until after my first maternity leave in 2016 that I sort of felt that I found my place in finance. And that's when I almost accidentally stumbled into the topic of sustainable finance. And I quickly realized that this was the perfect combination for me. It was investment banking, but still also learning and working with the main challenges, or perhaps the biggest issue of today, concerning sustainability and perhaps climate change in particular. And I find it very, very interesting to be perhaps even just so a small part of the necessary contribution from the financial industry in financing the green transition. I think I would probably never be able to go back to sort of regular finance now that I've entered the sustainable finance corner, where I've spent the last 4 years. Perhaps not so much, I should say, a corner anymore, as I'm sure most of you would agree. The focus on sustainability just keeps growing day by day. And I would say that this pandemic even has not been able to slow down this speed, but rather on the contrary. The last 12 months, I think it is more or less exactly 12 months now. It has certainly been strange, challenging. Sometimes I wonder if I'm working from home or sleeping in the office, or simultaneously perhaps running a kindergarten. But I do think it has definitely had its positive sides as well, which I hope we will not forget. I used to travel quite a lot before this year, and that is obviously not always a very efficient use of time. And now that everything is like this on video, it's very easy to ask if all those trips were really necessary. Some, yes, all, no. So I think that is something to bring with us going forward. And even if this line between what is office hours, what is free time, that's definitely, at least for me, been very much blurred these 12 months. But for me, it has also meant that I've been more efficient. I've been able to do more work. There's been less traveling, as I said, less inefficient use of time. And I've also had more time with my immediate family and with my children. And as I'm sure many of you can relate, if you have children, is that's the eternal challenge of finding time to fit everything into to your schedule. So I do hope that even if there are, of course, things that we do miss, that when we go back to I won't say go back to normal, but when we leave all this, we don't go back to the previous normal, but that we actually see some changes. And from a work-life perspective, I think this added flexibility around working conditions, it gives people the opportunity to combine work with private life and in the varying stages of private life, which of course varies over time. But it makes that combination easier, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to work less. And I think that finding ways of having this flexibility will be key for many companies going forward when it comes to both attracting and even more so retaining a diverse workforce going forward.
Thank you, Nina. So insightful, so interesting. And I loved your like, am I in the office? Am I sleeping? Am I in the kindergarten? Where am I?
You never know.
So many of us can relate
It's all the same.
to that. It's like all very blurry. So bless you. Thank you so much for your insights. And I just came to think of to all our beautiful attendees who are out there. Some of you have your camera on, some of you don't. That's absolutely fine. If you'd like to, while you're listening in, you're welcome to do a little check-in and just type in, you know, your name and where you're calling from. And then we get a sense of who we are, because if we would have been together in the room right now, we would have seen each other. So that's a nice way to do it if you would like to. No pressure at all, if not. And we are lucky enough to have one speaker left, and I can't wait to hear from Camilla. So bring it on.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, I'm original Swedish, but been living in Norway for almost 25 years. I'm a serial entrepreneur, I'm an investor. I have done a lot of different things. I met a lot of amazing people, but I think the biggest value is my network. And this is also usually something we women is not good to grow. So I think it's very important to invest in your network if you're going to be a successful woman. So for me, the focus for me for the last few years, I've been working a lot with fundraising, but then on the side as strategy, fundraising, on the digital side, like crowdfunding. So I started in 2018, my second crowdfunding company, and that was also my 8th company I started. And then Corona came and changed everything. For me, I think last year have been one of my worst. At the same time, it's been one of my best years. So first, the worst. Long story short, I lost my company, and that was really tough, just because you have working together with many co-investors, your liability, your trust that you have, and of course, all my effort and money I put into it. So that made a huge difference. But then I was really lucky when I managed to meet with an amazing woman called Annett. She's a serial entrepreneur and investor. She also started her first company very young. She was 25 years old, but she started with 2 women. And the amazing part is that they are still working together over 30 years later. They have been very successful. They even sold one of the company through a private equity fund. So she decided to invest in a gin and whiskey distillery called Feddie Distillery, which I am the chairwoman in. And this is on an island 2 hours north of Bergen, which is the closest to Scotland. So I guess that means it's to make the world best whiskey is there. But the unique thing about this is she decided to only have women investors. So, and that means Feddie Distillery is funded only by women. And we managed to fundraise over 20 million last year with 125 women. And I even asked her why she decided this. And it was a very easy answer. And I loved it because she said that, well, I have only had success working with women. So that was the reason. So it's quite unique. Today we have kind of a community that we have to take care of and see if we can be a role model to start companies and start investing in more companies. And then at last, my own personal mission in life, that is to get more women to invest in the risk capital market, which means unlisted shares. I would love to disarm the name of investments. I want to make it as easy it is as to shop on internet, like we do on Salander or Boost or whatever. Because I really think we need to start owning. Women need to start owning, because if we're going to change and move the numbers of the gender equality, we need to own, because that gives us power. And the power is to make the change, because that's when you can have the power to decide who's going to be in the board, and the board can decide who's going to be the CEO. And the only way for us to do that is to start owning companies. And that is also the reason why I co-funded, together with 2 other amazing women, the WIN, Women Investment Network, where we are teaching and learning women all over the world how to start investing in startups. Thank you. Kim, you're muted.
There you go, the tech stuff. Thank you so much, Camilla. And I'm thinking, wow, I am sure there's many of us who are listening who want to know more about how I can learn about investment and how to learn more about what you're doing. So if there's any links you want to share in the chat box, welcome to do that. And now, after hearing this, like a bouquet of different beautiful flowers, celebrating our investment awareness and power and everything, we're going to go into breakout rooms. Welcome back to the big chocolate box of the big group. I hope you had nice conversations, and I'm looking for some interesting questions. So I'm going to read a question here. This is from Reidun. Investment question for later. In Norway, we have many money talk investment groups. I've had no luck finding any in the UK. Is there any for women only? And who would you like to answer the question? We need a name. So Reidun, can you write? Who would you like? Or I'm going to ask among my panelists who would like to take the question. Let me see. Helena, is that a question for you? You're in the UK.
Yes, I should know the answer, but I don't actually. But I would very much like to know. We can see if we can look into it. Yeah. Anyone who wants to connect with me, feel free to look me up on LinkedIn, etc. And yeah. I will see if I can share that, because that would be useful. We are really looking into this to see what we can do as the bank. It's a genuine initiative, and we're all really keen to take part. Sorry, I can't answer the actual question.
That's fair talk. I mean, this is, we're all in exploration mode. And then what about Camilla? Because you know you have a women investment group, and that's a Norwegian one. Do you know if you have a sister organization in the UK for people who are based here, Camilla?
No, I don't know anything in UK. No, I'm sorry. I know there is in Denmark. I know there is in Sweden, but I don't know in UK. No, sorry.
That's all right. Things to be explored. Let's hope that this is going to spark some initiatives. So I'm waiting for...
Can I just add something on that, which is worth knowing, is that when you're part of this Nordic community, for example, there'll be certain things that are good for us to do that may not suit the pure Brits who are living their entire lives here. And that's really our role within our private banking, for example, helping Nordic nationals with that. So sometimes the answer you get elsewhere might not be very good, and that's really the problem. That's why we focus only on that community, because we can know and help them rather than everyone. So that's a general truth. We need to sort of find groups that are relevant to us, wherever they happen to be, whatever the industry is, rather than something general, because we're all also very unique.
Yeah, there you go. I hear you. Fantastic. So I'm looking at the chat box. There's no questions coming up. So I'm going to be very bold and moderate and just ask some people. And I'm lucky to have some people that I know from before who knows about the Writing Out Loud. So we have Pam Cower from Warwick. I'm just going to call on you, Pam. How was it to be in your dialogue? What came up in your group?
Hi, lovely to see everybody. Thank you so much, Kim, for inviting me along. Yeah, no, we had some lovely conversations actually. We all agreed there were definite advantages to being a woman in our respective fields. Certainly for myself, mine is financial services, which I'm sure will resonate with a lot of you, and very heavily male-dominated profession. And I find I regularly get women sort of coming to me and speaking to me and actually just saying very directly, had you been a man sat there in a pinstripe suit, and the irony is I'm generally sat there in a suit as well, but they will say, had you been a man, we wouldn't have come and spoken to you, and they don't feel that they're coming to a financial planner, if you like. They just see it as it's just Pam, we're just having a conversation with Pam, so it's lovely.
Fantastic. Very glad to hear it. And I'm looking at the chat box, and there's no questions coming up, and I hope that's a sign of that you're just taking everything in, and not because you're not inspired, but of course I'm not inside of you, so I don't know. So I'm just going to pick on some few people that I know, and I have another woman that I know who's sitting in Switzerland. Amanda, how was your conversation? What happened there?
Hi everyone, nice meeting you. And it was a great little group that we had. We had 2 males in there actually, and one more woman. Diana was her name. It was very interesting actually. We all had kind of the same point of view of how difficult it is as a woman, but it's definitely changing, and women are being more accepted in the male-dominated area of business. And I am in agriculture technology, and for me it's also very difficult because it's very male dominating, and I've actually never had meetings with women before. So yeah, like I said, I'm taking a course with you soon, Kim, right, to practice my speaks with women with men in that area.
There you go. And this, I always call it a continuum when it comes to what we can do for our personal. Camilla, I've seen you. I'm going to give you the word, 2 seconds. But I always say this like a continuum, and there's 2 different sides. There's the part which is our personal toolbox, how we show up, our executive leadership, our confidence, our gravitas, and how we strategize, how we prepare. And there's a lot of that. And then often when I have individual clients, sometimes I say, and then there's a systemic part. And then actually the best tool is to know what it is that you can change and what you need to rise above, right? So there's a whole range of perspectives and knowledge there. So fantastic. Yes, I'm so glad to have you among us today, Amanda. Thank you. Camilla, you want to add something?
Yeah, I was taking the opportunity because there's many women in the finance and investments here today. So I just think that we really need to do something with the wording about investment, because that scares everyone. I remember someone asked me if I was a business angel, and I was at that point, but when I heard it, I thought they were talking about a motorcycle club or something. I also know when people talk about instruments in the finance, I thought they were talking about guitars and saxophones and things like that. So the wording is scaring women out of the financing and taking responsibility to start investing. And I read the numbers yesterday that were 34% of women do not understand what the bank advisor talks about. And that is just amazing. But that's why we need more women in the banks, in the finance, because we need women to talk to women because they know. So I think that is really important to think about. And this is nothing's exceptions against other markets. It's like, I mean, we like having these wordings that gives us the feeling that we know the field, but it is important when you discuss this, not using these difficult words. So it's going to feel more comfortable for women to do and learn about this field.
Absolutely. Thank you. There's such power in words. And very often going into professional field is a lot about the vocabulary. I'm going to ask you to just one little thing more, because we have a question from Stine to you, Camilla. So Stine Eikefit is asking, she says, I would love to learn more about women in investment. This is something I know very little about, and I would like to ask Camilla, where can we learn more about investment? Apart from Googling it, of course. So do you have any, if we now are inspired to educate ourselves?
It depends on what country you are in, but in Norway there are many places to be. There are in many cities you can join the Business Angel, which is a place where you go together and you invest together in startups and scale up company, most of startups. So Business Angels organizations. We also have WIN that I now starting up. We're starting up a digital program, and that is 6 Wednesdays. We're gonna talk about these different things and how to do it. We talk about risk and things like that. And I also know the Angel Challenge is a group that started for a few years ago that you can join, because I think it's very important for you to joining some others. It's so much more fun to invest. It's so much fun to discuss, even if some knows a lot about this and someone doesn't, but go together. So there are some groups, and there's many groups on Facebook also, even if we are looking for the niche of startup investment, what is my field. Because you need to learn about all the kinds of investments. And of course, we have to mention She community. It is an amazing group of women and men that been having the yearly conference every year at this time. So that is also something to join. Yeah.
You're so resourceful, and it's all amazing. And I'm going like, where can I learn about these? Would you be as generous enough either to email this to Nyasha so she can include it in the newsletter, the follow-up, or to send it in the chat box, or both? Thank you so much for sharing from your resources. And this is such a resourceful group. That's what happened when you gather women to celebrate International Women's Day. And I actually see here from Jill Wolf, thank you so much, Jill. She says, there's a wonderful woman that has started an angel investor network in the UK called Christina Paris-Cates, I don't know, but anyway, so we're gathering resources here, everybody. So thank you so much for bringing that on. And I have one question that I'm seeing also, and that is around, somebody said, how can I get more confident when I speak to male stakeholders? And there's many long versions and short versions, and I'll do the short version here. I think, just a little bit like I heard in the event prior to this one, it's very much about being comfortable in our own skin. And so being generous with ourselves and being comfortable so that we can access our whole self. I very much believe that, you know, our real power comes when we can speak the truth. And so to know that we're not encyclopedias, we're not a role, we're the human being who are filling a role, and we're bringing all of that. And then one of the tips that I use with some of my clients is this: if you have nerves and stuff, which happens, it's almost like voices inside. Very often we try to oppress that voice. And a better approach is actually to make ourselves big, literally physically big, like expanding our torso and our stomach, and energetically big, and give space for the anxiety or the stress and for the wise voice. Because we always have a wise voice, but when these anxious ones start to take over and we try to oppress them, it becomes a little bit like a steam cooker, and then it comes out like a little scorpion's tail. So make yourself big, no sharp belts at all, spacious dresses and blouses, and making ourselves big so that we can hear the wise voice as well. And of course, I would love to share more of that with you all. And since I'm now talking about that, I'm going to say, if any of you are interested, I'm launching my course, The Right Kind of Loud, online in April, where I'm giving away all these tools that I've been developing the last year by having all these online things. And so connect with me on LinkedIn or go find me on my website, Kimei page, and I'm very welcome to bring you all on. I would love to work with you and help you. If you want to know more about the Chambers of Commerce, who are the generous and you know, really hardworking organizations that have made this possible for all of us, with social media. Thank you, Stina, for doing that. With Nyasha's organizing, with Kyrre, who's behind the scene. I mean, with there's a lot of people behind the scene that we don't see right now. And these chambers of commerce, they all have websites, and you can sign up for the newsletters, and they have lots of really interesting events. And then I hope that we will keep the conversation going. And I think the best way to keep this conversation going is for all the connections that we're creating in an event like today. Because I mean, this is an opportunity to get out of our home offices and well, not out of, but to bridge. So with that said, I think I'm good. And this is from Anna McPherson. Hello, Anna. My question relates to bridging the academic and practitioner gap. It would be good if you could share resources related to what one can do more to inspire and motivate young women and build their confidence while they are still studying for a degree, and to prepare them for work in finance. You work in the HE sector, and this is embarrassing. I don't know what HE sector is, Anna. What is that?
Higher education sector.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Anna. That's a great question. I'm going to give that question to Annett. What comes up for you? Because I mean, you talked about how you did an internship and stuff when you were young. So tell us, what comes up for you?
Good, myself. No, I will, like I mentioned, I studied finance. So in a way, at least I know the sort of the basics. I know the industry because I studied it. But I think what, for example, I have an example. I don't know if it explains the situation, but when I did an interview at some point, I was almost, the last interview round, and I think they liked me. This was as a financial analyst. And they asked, well, we like you and we think you can do the job, but we're a bit worried that you are not gonna keep up with the banter, that is going to offend you, the banter in the office, because it's so male dominated. And I was at the point the only woman amongst 20 men. And my reply, I was lucky to have a reply because my husband is a trader. So I could say, well, I'm very used to that type of banter because my husband is a trader. So I know what you mean, and I'm quite happy with that. It doesn't bother me. So I think sometimes it can be sort of the fact that it's so male dominated makes sort of women not fit in, and to sort of just get along with that. I think the world is changing with that, but I think just kind of trying to understand that aspect of the financial world, that the conversation is slightly different than the communication, at least in certain areas.
Beautiful. Thank you, Annett. Thank you for sharing your experience. And I mean, today is both a celebration and it's gathering of lots of experiences and resources and hunger and appetite to learn more. And I'm seeing here there's coming more resources among us here, somebody knows somebody in crowdfunding, etc. So I'm so glad that we're able to share this very, after all, valuable chat box with each other. And the word is yours, Kyrre. You have a final something for us to say.
Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who attended, who wanted to attend this great event. I had a fantastic, great time here to listen. And I'm saying that because I'm fed up of online events, but this is what we have. But when we can have great events like this, great people, and this day is also important for everyone. So thank you, but thank you also to Nyasha and Stine from my side who made this possible to run. To Jade in the Finnish chamber, to Gunnar and Diane and everyone in their team who made this possible. It's a lot of people behind the scenes, as you said. Most of us has been behind there, not to put out the neck too much. So, but if there is anything you want us in the Chamber of Commerce to do in the Danish or the Finnish or the Norwegian, please reach out to us. We are approachable and we are nice bunch people we are. So thank you so much to everyone.
Thank you. Yay, yay for International Women's Day, yay for the Nordic communities, yay for UK, yay for making change, yay for getting stronger. You're all a beautiful bunch. I can't wait to see you next time. See, we are still like over 30 people here. Time is out, but because we're here, does anybody have something you would like to say before you log off, or you would like to thank or ask?
Yeah, thank you so much, Kim, for organising such a great, hosting such a great event. I just had a really quick question. I mean, I have put it in chat, but I'm not sure if the question's being understood. Just really, just some really quick practical tips. And I was asking Nina about this, regards to women being able to implement in their daily lives to sustain finance long term. So, you know, I know there's probably like, you know, diversification of income generation, but just some and we've talked about investments, but I was just wondering, you know, just something that we can sort of pass on to other women, you know, some real kind of 1 or 2 or 3 just tips that we can take away to kind of generate sustainable income, basically.
Over to you, Nina. I was hoping that it would be something for you because I haven't called on you yet. So there you go. You read my mind.
And I wasn't fully sure I understood the question. I think, I mean, what I do in my daily work relating to sustainable finance is very finance driven, and that we help companies finance their transition from being to becoming more greener companies, so to say. So we're very much involved in this transition across various different sectors, various different types of companies, which I find to be a very, very interesting place to be in. Obviously, sustainability is a much broader topic than just covering environmental issues, even though I'm mainly involved in those types of questions. But I definitely think that the financial industry overall has realized in the last couple of years that sustainability is a very important topic, and something that is also becoming more and more important to actually be a relevant employer over time. So I think from that perspective, it's obviously an important topic, and I think everyone sort of in everything we do in our daily life, we of course also influence people around us, and then the choices we make and how we choose to communicate with the colleagues, etc., and clients for that matter, definitely sets a small impact every time. So I think it's all a matter of what we do, how we communicate, and sort of stand up for what we want to see more of.
I don't know, Artie, do you want to add anything to that? Thank you so much, Nina. Do you want to be a little bit more specific, Artie? It can be a little bit difficult to know exactly what we mean with these big topics.
Yeah, I think I was more talking about sort of generating finance long term. You know, I mean, I know we've talked about investments, and you know, I do think it's still very male dominated, unfortunately, and it is really scary, I think, sometimes not understanding that world, especially as women, and especially because we're not taught it at school. So I guess investments is obviously a sustainable way of generating income. Were there any others? Just as a lay member, not as a company or a client, but just as a woman who's looking to generate sustainable income over a lifetime, for example. I don't know. Does my question making any sense? I'm not sure if
well, I think actually you might want to look at some of those clips that I promoted in that earlier link, because there are some explanations why women don't own, and that talks about there are some statistics there to show if you just put the money in a bank account, it's going to grow a very, very small amount, and inflation will take away what you've got. Whereas if you invest, it has the potential to grow so much more, and that's why it will close that retirement gap. To just kind of start looking at those topics, it's really interesting. And I think once you've seen that as a woman, you kind of accept that I have to take investment risk, because it looks like a far more risky proposal to say I'm going to keep my money in the safe bank account all my life. So starting to invest in something really early on is really important. But I think they're actually some quite good sort of starting points just to understand that. Once I saw that, if you leave it in the bank, it will shrink over time. You will end up with basically what you started with, but it's worth less compared to investing, and then at this different risk levels. So I think understanding risk is really key to this. If you can't understand that you have to take risk, you're not going to make any money, and it will not sustain you in your retirement.
And Helena, is there any sort of mentors or financial advisors that particularly would do that for women? Like, you know, I know we talked to like one company earlier, but is that something that could be sort of circulated? I don't know if there's any information on it, because you know, I'm at a stage where I really want to invest, but I don't feel I've got enough information, and I don't feel confident enough to just go ahead and do it without learning that knowledge, or at least, you know, someone showing me how to do it.
I mean, I'm sure there are tools out there. So I'm a member of the Chartered Insurance Institute, the Personal Finance Society. And if you look on their websites, there's quite a lot of tools. And I think they do have some tools for school kids as well. That are out there. I've not really looked at that because I don't work so much in that field. But I'll take a look, and then I'll stick it in an email to Nyosha.
Great, thank you. That would be really useful. Thanks.
I'm seeing Pam and I'm seeing Camilla. And Thank you. So I'm going to give you the word first, Pam, and then we go to
And
Camilla.
sorry, I'm going to sign off now. Thank you, everyone. It was great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lovely rest of your day. Yes.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to kind of just resonate, everything that Helen said just really completely resonated. And Artie, you know, I'd really kind of recommend kind of finding someone that you're comfortable with, you know, in the finance kind of sphere, you know, financial planner, or, you know, someone that you're comfortable with and chatting to, because I think that's a really, really good starting point. You know, we talk about women having, you know, various professionals in our power teams. I'm coming across that quite a lot at the moment. And definitely, if you've got someone who can kind of just guide you through that process, you know, you can use that as a starting point, because once you kind of know the basics and you feel confident, you can take that in any direction that you like. So yeah, absolutely, I'd really recommend kind of, you know, reaching out and chatting to somebody.
Thank you. Thanks.
And Pam, I happen to know that you might know someone who does that.
I didn't want to do a shameless plug.
Write that in the chat box. If somebody feels that we want to talk to you, it's a wonderful opportunity to get to know you. This is such a woman thing. If you were a man, you would have said it straight on.
No.
Just put your contact information in the chat box. You never know, because you're a good finance woman. So you never know.
Bless you.
Camilla.
No, I'm more than happy for anybody to kind of
put your
reach
information out. I'm going to give you the speaking thing, Camilla, and then let's see. I mean, it's over, but we're still here. So, okay, fine. Yes, Camilla, go on.
I was just thinking that the bank advisor is also one good partner to just start with, if they have been learning to use the right wording, of course. But if you want to learn about investments, because it's quite different on the risk, but what I work with is high risk, and that means I invest in startups. But I think it's so much fun, and today we do have these crowdfunding platforms, and we do have awesome crowdfunding platform in UK called Cedars, because crowdfunding is for different way to different what do you call it, market. You have lending is one thing. You can lend out your money to a higher risk and higher interest rate back. But I work with equity crowdfunding, and you can invest as little as $100 US or 200 pounds, £100 in one company, and still you can make money on that. But then you're taking very high risk, 100% risk, but you can also get like 10 times back, because it's depends on how risk you take. It depends on how much you will get back, and you can invest in startups that you like, that is sustainable, or work with women, or have women leadership, whatever, and you can make it different. And it's a lot of fun. You can own suddenly 10, 20 small companies that you have been joining with small money. So I think that is the easiest way to start learning investing in high risk market.
Thank you so much. What a great thing. Like, we're just bubbling and wanting to learn and sharing resources. This is exactly what, you know, these events are supposed to be. So I'm thrilled. So Katrina Miller, you're sitting there with your beautiful big ribbons and your beautiful braid. So what do you want to say? How has the event been for you today?
Well, I feel very lucky to be here, and I also feel very unqualified listening to everyone speaking. I was invited by Gareth the other day when I told him that I was looking at potentially going into diplomacy, finance, absolutely so many sectors that, you know, I'm still a student. I don't really know what I want to do, but I know that sitting here and listening to so many wonderful women telling their stories and how they've got to where they have been has just been fantastic. I'm just very, very grateful for this opportunity to be on this call today. So I want to thank everyone.
How beautiful is that, Katrina? And I mean, if any of these women who've been in the panels, if any of them are sitting with something you would like to know more about, I'm sure they're just a LinkedIn message away, you know? I mean, I think we all especially when it comes to our professional journey, it's so satisfactory to pass on the baton and to help others. And so if you're in that starting point, I think what an excellent place to be. So thank you, Gareth, for inviting Katrina. So Gareth, how has the event been for you? You're calling in from Denmark. Hi, Denmark. You need to unmute yourself. It's the whole tech elastic.
Yeah, I'm here to listen. No, it's been. I think it's been a great morning actually, both sessions, and I've really enjoyed listening to what's going on. And I'm just sad that there aren't more men that sit and listen to this, to be perfectly honest. So
yeah.
I'm the token representative now.
Thank you, and you are one of the male allies, and we need the male allies. And I mean, I know because obviously, as a woman, I've been involved in lots of different women's initiatives and talks and sessions and stuff. And I particularly enjoyed when we have male allies, because in my universe, it's something we are all impacted by, that it's imbalanced, and it's something we need all to learn about. So thank you. You have an important presence for us today.
Can I just make a plug for something? One of my very good friends, Tina Williamson, she has something called Womanomics. And that's running in May, at the beginning of May. I can put a link in the chat if you like.
Put it in the chat box. This is all.
And it's about the value brought to the world by women in business.
Awesome. Fantastic. How cool is that? Bring it in. Fantastic.
I will
bring it in. And now I'm going to jump. I'm just jumping on the people who are brave enough to have the cameras on, because I can see you. So Marilyn Fogg, what's up for you? How has the event been for you? Now you're muting yourself again. You need to unmute. It's the whole tech elastic things. There you go. Yeah.
It's been great. I just, wish all of you, each and every one of you, a very happy Women's Day. And it's been most interesting. I look forward to connecting with some of you and continuing. Really cool.
Fantastic.
Happy Women's Day, everybody.
Happy International Women's Day, Marilyn. Thank you for being with us, and thank you for sharing. And that makes us happy. I mean, I think that's what all of these events are about. It's about keeping it going and keeping the baton rolling, right? And so I'm going to call of the other ones I haven't heard from. So I'm seeing Anna McPherson. You're a little dark in all fairness. So from a communication perspective, put the lamp in front of you instead of behind you. But apart from that, I want to hear, how has the event been for you?
It's been great. It's been inspirational. I'm feeling really good to have that opportunity to connect to everyone, and feeling really happy and way forward to celebrate the International Women's Day. So really, really lovely. Thank you so much.
Blissful, fantastic. I mean, we've done a lot of preparations and thought and designed and prepped and rehearsed and all of that. So what better greeting to receive? It couldn't be better. Thank you so much, Anna. I'm so glad you're here with us today.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. And then I'm going to jump at the bottom of my screen. I see Charlotte Sterling. So how has the event been for you, or what would you like to say to us? And it's the whole unmute thing. I know. There you go.
Hi. So unfortunately, I missed the first half with the panel, because I thought I listened to the session between 11 and 12, and that was on Teams. So I thought this was on Teams as well, because I didn't get any information from anywhere. Anyway.
I'm so sorry. It's great that you're here.
Yes. I just wanted to say that I'm Swedish. I moved to London in '89 and worked in the city in the financial industry since then for investment banks, on the sell side doing stockbroking. So if there are any, I have worked with, there was one person, so let's see, yeah, anyway, so I did work at SEB, for instance. I worked at Deutsche Bank, I've worked at other places. I'm now at Carnegie. So if any young woman who is interested in hearing about how it is to work in this industry, please feel welcome to contact me. This is still an extremely male-dominated industry. At Carnegie, there is not a single woman sitting on the sales desk in any of the Nordic countries. We do have 3 women in London. But so when I worked at Alfred Berg, and even in the early 90s, I was the only woman. It hasn't changed. If anything, it's gone worse. And the analyst, there's like one female analyst. She happens to be the head of the team, but so I do lots of presentations for students at different universities in Sweden. And there are quite a lot of women who start at our corporate finance department in Stockholm and in other countries, but on sales, no. And if I can be a stockbroker, anyone can be a stockbroker, I can tell you.
I love that, Charlotte. Thank you so much. I'm so glad that you're joining us. And there was a woman who's logged off now because obviously we're over time, and she's looking to talk to someone. So maybe she would like to talk to you. Can I ask you just to say in the chat box, hi, I'm Charlotte. I have experience in the field. If you're young and you're looking for just someone to have a call with, I'm happy to talk to you. Contact me, and then your LinkedIn, because this is such a sharing of resources, and I think that's very, very valuable. And I mean, because we're now 19 minutes over time, some of the people have now logged off, and I'm sure there's going to be. We were when we started, Charlotte. We've been we started with 67, right? And now we're so there's going to be, and I'm sure there's some other aspiring finance women among us today, or maybe some who are just young finance women who want to learn more. So that's very precious and valuable that you're willing to share that. I love that. And like one part of me is like, I can't believe it's so bad. And like, okay, at least we're here. We're doing something. We're gathering. So that's beautiful. Yay. And by now everybody's spoken. Everything's done. I think we're good. I'm just really glad. I was looking forward. I was excited. I was preparing. I had the honor of, being the moderator today, which is always a joy. And I think we spread both some insights and some tips and some community and some sparks, and that's pretty much what we can do. And I just hope to see you again. Well, such a joy, everybody. Happy Women's Day, happy everything, and until very soon. Yeah. Thank you. Bye-bye.